It is finally here, the game in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We are on site for Ohio State and Michigan, one of the premier games in any sporting event in the country. And for two fan bases that truly hate each other, today is going to be an epic day. Can't wait to cover this one here in person, and looking forward to a day that hopefully will be a memorable one for a long, long time. Brendan Gulick and Anthony Moeglin with you, part of BuckeyesNow on the Fan Nation Network with the Sports Illustrated Media Group. And if you can't tell, it's pretty cold here in Michigan, but we're not expecting any precipitation, rain, or snow all day, unlike 2 years ago when we were here. And that's the best news. Cold football is just fine this time of year, but you want dry football for a game like this. Anthony, good morning. What are you thinking?
Great morning to you. And yeah, for all intents and purposes, right, end of November, it looks like a pretty darn good day where right where you are in Ann Arbor. It looks like the sun's shining, and it's exciting, man. And it was one of those things. You wake up this morning, the group chats are going off. The boys, nobody slept last night. Everyone's getting ready and excited in Ohio for a big day today. And I'm fired up for it, and it's going to be should be an awesome one. We got a great one on our hands this afternoon.
So I guess I'm conveniently positioned where the stadium is right behind me, but I'm looking at the swath of people that are lined up for Fox Big Noon kickoff and for College Game Day. And there are easily at least as many people already outside the stadium as there will be inside the stadium when this thing kicks off here in a couple of hours. I parked a mile and a half away at someone's house where I had free parking in their driveway. And when I got to the end of their street and walked straight up stadium, it was bumper to bumper stoplights. And that was at least 45 minutes ago at this point. So if you're not here yet and you're coming to the game, you probably should have left already. Not sure what to tell you. The environment here is quite a party.
Oh, it's going to be awesome. It's the best environment in college football. It's the best rivalry in all of sports. And especially like you had said earlier in the week, like the stakes around this game are higher than they've ever been. This is really the last one potentially for a long time that's going to have this kind of meeting, with 2 11-0 teams, 2 undefeateds. This has the makings to be an all-timer and an instant classic.
And so let's kind of dive into the game a little bit here. We've talked throughout the course of the week. If you've missed several of our shows, they're available on our YouTube channel, and we would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to that channel. We've gone into like matchups and specific players, things you think you really want to watch along the way. I guess as I get closer and closer to kickoff, the thing I'm like most fix on trying to really lock in on, pay attention to, is defensive line play. Ohio State's defensive tackles have to play well. They have to be disruptive, especially in the run game. And frankly, Michigan's strength defensively is their defensive line. They've been terrific this year. So, does it put more pressure on the offensive line or defensive line? I guess it depends on how you look at it. But without a doubt, I think the team that plays better up front defensively is going to put themselves in a really good spot.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to even build off the interior defensive linemen, I think it's whoever wins the line of scrimmage is going to have, the advantage today. And that's on both sides of the football. Whoever can run it better on offense and whoever can stop the run. And this feels like to me, even just getting prepped for this game and talking all week about it, this feels like one of those really old school. This is going to be on the ground. There's going to be a lot of running, not too much passing. I think that, whoever's going to win this football game is going to win the line of scrimmage and be able to control the tempo of the game on the ground and then build their pass game off of it.
From a quarterback perspective, I'm trying to figure out where I think the true advantage is, because I think both quarterbacks have obviously had good seasons. Let's be objective about it. They've both played really well. I don't know that either guy is a legitimate bona fide Heisman Trophy contender. I don't think that's, quite where they've been. Kyle McCord didn't play quite as well last week, but in general has certainly been progressing, getting better throughout the year. J.J. McCarthy, maybe not quite 100% healthy. Perhaps that hinders him a little bit. I guess J.J.'s maybe a bit more proven. He's obviously played in this game before, but I don't know. I feel like quarterback play is probably on a pretty level playing field. And I don't know that everybody would agree with that, but that's kind of how I see it coming in.
And it almost feels like if you look at these teams across the board, right, you look at quarterback, you look at running back, you look at the offensive line, it's pretty even everywhere. And I think that, in my opinion, like I said just a minute ago, whoever wins the line of scrimmage and is able to run the football is going to have an advantage. And whoever's quarterback makes the big play, where's that big play going to happen? Is it going to happen early on in the game? Is it going to happen on the last drive? But one of these quarterbacks is going to have to separate their team to win this football game today. And the reason I have some confidence in Kyle McCord is that the past couple weeks have just been getting better and better and better and better. And it's not been great. He hasn't blown the doors off anything, but just steadily getting better and playing good football. And on the flip side of things, I think J.J. McCarthy's kind of been getting a little bit kind of on a decline. Not horrible, but just not playing to kind of his standards. So that's what excites me and gives me confidence that Kyle McCord, when the chips are down and Ohio State needs a throw or needs a drive, that number 6 is going to come up for the Buckeyes and make that big play to really separate the Bucs in this one.
We've talked about it, and you hear a lot of people talking about the emotions that you play with in a rivalry game. How difficult, since you've been in the heat of some really tough rivalries when you played, how difficult is it to play with emotion without letting emotions play with you on a stage where everything's at stake?
That's big professionalism out of you. That was a good one. That was really good there. No, it's one of those things, Brendan. It's like, all right, you gotta. In my opinion, what I always tried to do in any big game was allow myself to be in the moment right before kickoff or right in warm-ups. Like, hey, take this in. This is a special day. And I hope the players are able to do that right before kick. Like, look around. Hey, for the Ohio State, you're in enemy territory. You have an opportunity to kind of cement your legacy and cement your history for Ohio State. And then once that kick goes, it's football. You gotta get rid of the rivalry. You got to get rid of I hate you or I hate this, and you just have to execute, because execution is what's going to win this game. I could rah all day long and be excited, but if I make a mistake here, make a mistake there, it's going to cost my team the game. So it was kind of twofold, and I apologize. I just had a light go out, but it's kind of twofold there, where you gotta enjoy it, and you gotta live in the moment, but you also have to just execute, because if you execute, you win the football game and you accomplish all your goals.
I really can't decide if that's a good omen or a bad omen. Lights flickering for you in the pregame report. Well, somewhere along the way, the lights are going to go out in the big house later tonight, but hopefully it's not for quite a while. Obviously, the great news is we're not looking at having a day where the weather should be negatively impactful, so that's good. I saw this recently, and maybe just continuing to build into some of what you're talking about. This is the 13th time that these two teams have been inside the top 10 and played each other, and the 4th time that they've been in the inside the top 5. And it's only the first time they've ever been undefeated going into the game back-to-back years, undefeated and untied. And obviously with the changes coming in college football next year, certainly in the Big Ten Conference next year, I mean, there's so much at stake in this game, and yet I feel like that's all of the stuff that's building the fun and the hype and the energy around this game. But man, when you're playing, like, that doesn't matter. You can't think about any of that. You can't literally go in to try and make plays with the weight of those expectations on your shoulders, or you're going to tighten up. And I think both teams, coaching staffs this week, talked about trying to put their teams in position to play free and play fast.
We talked about it earlier in the week. It almost felt like the past couple years, you get into this game and you're like, everything's on it, and they just put so much pressure on themselves. Like, I'm hopeful today, and I'm hopeful today that, throughout the week it was, hey, let's get prepared. Kyle, this is what we're going to see. And then they really just simplify everything and just, hey, if it's third down and Marvin Harrison's open, just throw him the football. It's just like stuff like that. Just let's make this game of football very, very simple on the biggest stage, because if we simplify it, you guys will play fast, you'll play confident, and you'll be able to execute at a really high level to kind of come out on top. And that's what you hope for, when this team's been preparing and getting ready, for this one.
I think we might have differing opinions on this, because you kind of alluded to it the other day. I'm not 100% sure. How much do you think Marvin Harrison needs to have like an impact in production in this game for Ohio State to win? I'm talking catches, yards, touchdowns. Do you think he needs to be that kind of player, or is his presence enough to draw attention away from guys like Emeka Egbuka or Kate Stover or whoever?
Yeah, really, really good point. Last year we saw it with Emeka going kind of off, and really when you're building a defensive game plan for Ohio State, it starts with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's the best player on the field. However, I think you bring up a good point. Like, this doesn't have to be a day. If this is a day where he's got 15 targets, 10 catches, 130 yards, like that could potentially mean Ohio State's chasing, because I don't think the personality of this football game is going to be ripping it all around the field and throwing it a bunch of times. Like, he's going to have to be productive in spots, like on third downs in the red area. This could be a game where he has, 5 catches, 50 yards, a touchdown or two, and just is moving the sticks and making those big, big catches. I don't think that it works in Ohio State's favor if he's got 100, he's got a bunch of targets and they're going after him, because I think that means that they're in chase mode.
I tend to agree, but I also think that he's got a chemistry, Marvin does, with Kyle that's pretty unique, and he's kind of Kyle's security blanket, right? I mean, I feel like when there are instances where Kyle really needs to make a play, he's kind of looking for Marv at first, right? And that doesn't mean that he is doing something counterproductive to a play. It's like this cohesion between, Ryan calling the plays, Kyle running the show offensively, where, Ryan sort of knows that, hey, look, Kyle wants to get the ball to the best player in college football. I got the best player in college football on my team. I want to get him the ball. And so, excuse me, so they tend to call more plays for him. But I really think Emeka Egbuka, especially with the way he seems to be more healthy right now, I really think he could have a bigger day than most people nationally are expecting. Everybody's talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., and I get it. He's probably the best player in college football, but I just think if Ohio State is trying to ride him, it may not go well.
Right. And I think, too, it goes back to what we said about Travion, too, right? Mecca's healthy. He's looked really good the past couple of weeks. Like, this could be one where he, again, pops off, for a big one like he did last year. So I'm excited to see how it kind of shakes out. But, I think both of them are going to have wildly productive days, maybe not from a yards perspective, but still making big catches and really making a huge impact for Ohio State's offense.
I think one of the things I'm most excited to watch is how many different formations Ryan Day runs the football out of, because I think the Buckeyes are going to be pretty committed to running the ball. The question is, are they running out of single back sets? Are they running out of the I formation like we saw week 1 at Indiana? Are they running power? Are they running gap scheme? Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to run jet sweeps? How can they get Michigan's eyes moving defensively and get touches to Emeka and Marvin, other than just throwing them the ball? Obviously, Travion's been incredible the last 4 weeks. But I just think if you look historically at who wins this game, it has so much to do with which team runs the ball better. And frankly, I expect Michigan to do the same thing, but I don't know that I've seen as much creativity in how they run the ball. They're more smash mouth. Hey, we're going to run it, try to stop us.
Yeah, they're going to come out with 2 tight ends and a fullback and a running back, and it's coming right up the gut. Yeah, you make a good point. Like, what is the wrinkle, or where are the wrinkles that Ohio State is going to add into this offense to try to find just hidden yards in different places, and that's what's been Ryan Day's what he's been very good at. In terms of designing game plans and calling plays, is just having that little bit of creativity that's just something different, that's new, and that provides some success. That'll be awesome to see. They've run it really well out of both. Obviously we found a groove in running the football out of the shotgun formation. That allows, I feel like Kyle's a little more comfortable there. So you're excited to see how he's creatively able to find or get the ball into all of his playmakers' hands in a bunch of different ways.
We don't have the game day status report quite yet. That should come out at 10 o'clock Eastern time. But it's, all week long we've been anticipating that the Buckeyes are basically going to be at full strength. Ryan Day has said it now. There have been times along the way where Ryan has alluded to being fully healthy, and then maybe somebody unexpectedly pops up on the report. But, he kind of talked about this week that, Michael Hall and Tommy Eichenberg are both going to be back, and the expectation is that Devin Brown would return. certainly, think and hope that Ohio State is going to be fully healthy going into this game. So assuming that's the case, maybe there's Devin Brown packages. We saw a few of those sprinkled in. Obviously, Devin had a big fumble in the red zone. That was pretty disappointing a few weeks back when he got hurt. But, if he's healthy, that's an entirely different look down in the red zone.
Yeah, no question. It came into play in the Purdue game, and it was successful until he fumbled it. So you don't know if that's back in the mix this week. But yeah, if this team can be healthy today, that's just all more power to him. And you think back to last week, sitting Tommy Eichenberg, I know it was hard, and Coach Day had that funny quote at the end, like, "Hey, we got into almost got into a fist fight." Yeah, almost got into a fist fight. But you do it to protect the player because, hey, if he was 95% and he plays against Minnesota and tweaks his injury or just gets banged up, then you're not 100% for today. Today's the game. This is what it's come down to. And for guys like Tommy, this is a chance to cement his legacy, at Ohio State. And you're excited to see how he performs. And if this Ohio State team is really close to healthy, like we expect them to be, I think that's a great thing.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you're dying to get off your chest?
No, I think we hit it all, but it's just for me, when I think about this game, how Ohio State wins it is the offensive line's got to have a day. We got to be able to run the football, and you got to be able to protect Kyle McCord. I think that if those two things can happen, that puts everything else at ease. Like, if you can run it successfully, we can throw it off the run, and if Kyle's not under pressure, I think that's a big advantage. So I'm excited to see how this offensive line performs today. And that's really the last thing that stays on my mind. I think Kyle's going to have a good day. I think Travion's going to run hard. I think we're going to catch the ball on the outside. But if this offensive line can show up, I think that's a great thing for Ohio State.
It's funny. I mean, every time I start thinking about one player, it's like, well, his success is largely impacted by his or theirs or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's the best part about this, man. It's the ultimate team sport, right? As a team, you got to go play. And if there's a weak link along the way, it could really hurt the whole group. You got to be at your best. And both teams have figured out a way to be unbeaten, thus far in the season. And they've got everything at stake. Look, I don't want to take an easy way out and put it on Kyle's shoulders either at quarterback. But I will say the combination of the offensive line's protection of McCord and Kyle's execution, I guess it's similar to how you're feeling here. When Kyle is clean, he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the country in EPA, expected points. When he is under pressure, statistically, he's one of the 5 worst. And I can't imagine that Michigan is going to let him sit back and try to find those receivers and just have a day. I have to imagine they're going to try to get after him. So, yeah, Josh Simmons and Josh Fryer in particular on the outside, got to bring it. They've got to be good today.
And just to your point, they're going to add on. Michigan's going to try to heat it up. So running backs too, it's a huge day in protection from the offensive line and the running backs, man. You got to be communicating well. When you see pressure, get pressure. And I think without being cliche, it's going to come down to what Kyle does, and it's a quarterback game. If he has a good day today, and you and I, we talked about it maybe on a show or maybe over the phone, but if he can be accurate today, that's the changer. That's the game changer.
And look, to your point, I mean, Travion Henderson, as good as he is running the ball, he is excellent in pass pro. That's a huge advantage for Ohio State that they don't have to bring back off the field if they need additional help protecting Kyle.
And think back to Travion's his impact in the pass game as well. One of the things too about getting into these rivalry games and how important it is for Kyle is, hey, you don't have to be Superman on every play. You don't have to throw it 60 yards down the field. If they have it covered up and you're protected, drop it down, hit a check down, get Travion the ball in space, because that's when those big plays really happen. So at the end of the day, we can talk everything we want, and I'm talking about the offensive line, but it's going to come down to what Kyle McCord's able to do to see what Ohio State, if Ohio State's able to come out with one.
All right, man. We've talked key players, we've talked key moments, we've talked key situations. Time to give a final score prediction. What do you think?
I'm up first, 27-13 Bucks. I think it's close for a lot of the game. I think you go into the fourth quarter or late in the third, either tied at 13, maybe tied at 10, and Ohio State gets too late two late touchdowns, one to kind of separate, and then one to shut the door, slam it shut, come back to Ohio, being one of the best teams in the country.
It's funny. You look at any potential weaknesses on both of these teams, and I feel like their weakness is against a strength for the opposition in both cases. And so I kind of expect not just the normal rivalry game feel, but like some big swings, some big punches, because when Ohio State, where they might be a little vulnerable, Michigan's really good, and vice versa. I expect this to be an even bigger emotional roller coaster than a normal rivalry game would be. But I think the score is going to be pretty tight all the way through. I actually really like the spread. It's basically a pick'em where Michigan's got a 3-point edge roughly because they're playing at home. I like Ohio State to win 23-20. I'm pretty confident that I'm picking that more with my head than my heart. I'm sure there's a little bit of that involved too. But ultimately, in my opinion, a healthy TreVeyon Henderson is just enough of the difference from what Ohio State was missing the last 2 years. I know TreVeyon at times hasn't been the best running back between the tackles, but I think he's going to get enough touches and get enough opportunities, even if it's in the screen game, to get in space. And when he gets space, man, you've seen what he can do. Look out. So ultimately, I think Ohio State has slightly better skill position guys, even though last year you could certainly argue the game was won in the trenches where Michigan was better on both sides of the ball. The Buckeyes, the combination of their improvement on the defensive line, not giving up the big plays the way they did in critical moments last year, and their physicality this year, along with the explosiveness in the run game, I think it's going to be enough for the Bucs to get it done. So Ohio State 23, Michigan 20.
I was just about to say we went 20 minutes without saying the words big play at all, because it's totally gotten taken out of our vocabulary, right? So just the way that this defense has played all year, you got to have it today. Like, doesn't matter that you didn't give up big plays against any of those other teams. You got to have it
for
today.
Sure. And that's the point. It's like, okay, good. You got 11 good games on tape. And I hate the idea of thinking about this as, you're playing a one-game season, because that's really not what this is. But there is an element of you've got all these chances to get it right, get good, when both programs have generally pretty equal talent, for sure. I mean, it's, there's not a huge talent gap here. Mm-hmm. So it becomes an executional thing. And when you have two teams that are pretty equal from a talent perspective, fundamentals matter more than ever. So which team is more fundamentally sound? Which team will sink to the level of their training better rather than rising to the moment? And I think both programs have shown this year that in some adversity they can play well. But I just like the way Ohio State's trending, and I think the Bucs are going to get it done today. I do.
I love it. And it's finally here, man. We finally got here, and it
feels like a national holiday, man. This is the best.
It sure does.
It's the absolute best.
It's awesome. We're at the grocery store this morning getting ready for the day, and everyone's decked out in their Ohio State gear. It's awesome, man. It's great. It's the best day. It's the best game of the season, and it's finally here.
Well, we got you covered wall to wall here on Buckeyes Now, BuckeyesNow.com. We've got a ton of written content from all week leading up to this game, and certainly we'll have a bunch of stuff over there today as well, and plenty of video content just like this coming your way. We will live stream Ryan Day's post-game press conference. Anticipate that we'll also have a few players come to the podium. That's typically what they do when Ohio State plays up here in Ann Arbor. If we have a chance to get away from the podium for any additional players, we'll try to do that for you as well. But know that we will have that for you live. And then as soon as we can, when that wraps up, we're going to come right back here. We're going to talk about it, because I'm sure no matter what happens, there's going to be an awful lot to break down from this afternoon's contest. Have a bunch of fun. Enjoy the game wherever you might be watching. If you're with family and friends, that's the best way to do it. And if you're a neutral observer, you are one of few. There are an awful lot of people that have a rooting interest in this game, and that's what makes it so much fun. We've got you covered again on Buckeyes Now. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, and we can continue to bring you coverage just like this. For Anthony Moeglin, I'm Brendan Gulick. Have fun. See you inside the big house here in a little bit.